Hello. I'm going to be preaching the book of Ezekiel. So this is Ezekiel chapter 1, and it's the vision of the Lord's glory. So in the 13th month, or in the 13th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day of the month, as I was among the captives by the river of Kabar, the heavens were open and I saw visions of God. So this is Ezekiel speaking, and he's describing where he was. He's among the captives. He was in Babylon, and he was a Jewish exile in Babylon, and Judah was captured by Babylon. So he was by the river of Kabar. The heavens were open and he saw visions of God. So first things first, you probably, if you're not familiar with faith, then you might say, oh, visions, is that just, like a hallucination, or what's going on with this guy? Do you even believe in this? And for those of you who are familiar, then you understand that sometimes God speaks in the visual to his people, and in the last days he's also going to do it for the people of the earth. So the young men are going to have visions, and old men are going to dream dreams, and so that's something that can be expected for your life if you're in that last day movement as part of the body of Christ. Then and just expect that to be poured out among other things that the Lord's going to do in the last days. So but this is how the Lord was revealing his glory to Ezekiel. On the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of captivity. So imagine that you are you're sort of home free and moved, or you're in that land that the Lord had promised you, and it's the land of your people, but then you were brought into captivity. So you've been there for 5 years, sort of acclimated. The king is Jehoiakim. So on the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of the captivity of King Jehoiakim, the word of the Lord came expressly to Ezekiel, the priest, the son of Buzi, in the land of the Chaldeans by the river Kabar, and the hand of the Lord was on him there. So just imagine, he's not in his home; he's down by the river, and so the word of the Lord came expressly to Ezekiel. So it was personal to him. And that vision came, and he says, as I looked, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud with fire flashing forth continually, and a brightness was all around it. So if you are into the visual arts or movies, it's going to be sort of creating that picture in your head. It's going to work for you. You're going to be able to come up with a whirlwind came out of the north. So on your compass, you're going to look north. That's where the whirlwind's coming from. And a fire flashing forth continually. So fire around it. Brightness was all around it, glowing. So imagine something spinning, spinning, spinning. And then there's, it's fire flashing forth. So it's like sending out bits of fire. And continually, the brightness was all around, super bright. And then in the midst of something is glowing metal in the midst of the fire. Just like there was metal glowing in the middle of the fire, whirlwind sending out it's just enveloped in brightness, and then sending out flashes of fire. All right, so this is what you're seeing. This is what Ezekiel's seeing by the river. Also out of the midst came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. So out of that midst, so it's like there was a piece of metal that was glowing, but also in the middle of it something else, and it's gonna get a little weird. The likeness, or what looked like 4 living creatures. Okay, first one you'll be able to deal with pretty easily. All right, this was the appearance. They had the likeness of a man. Okay, it was like a guy. everyone had 4 faces. Each of these guys had 4 faces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Across the face. Alright? Each of these guys had 4 faces. And everyone had 4 wings. So, if you, typically you'll see a bird with 2 wings, or you will imagine what an angel would look like with 2 wings, but 4 wings, it might be easier if you thought of a butterfly, because there was a higher and a lower part. So however you want to imagine the 4 wings, 2 behind, 2 forward, or whatever, but usually you're going to picture two wings, because that's how most of our flying animals take flight. But then but I want you to think about 4 wings. And yeah, for me it's easier if I think of a butterfly, because of the shape. All right, so everyone had 4 faces, everyone had 4 wings, their legs were straight, and the soles of their feet were the sole of a calf's hoof. Easy to look at, you know what I mean, or easy to imagine. So just straight legs, calf's hoof. Right, and they gleamed like the color of burnished bronze. So I would say, if I had to present that color to you, maybe burnished bronze, something like this. That work? Shiny. And they had the hands of a man under their wings. So there were 4 wings. So they had the hands of a man under their wings, on their 4 sides. And as for the faces and the wings of the 4 of them, their wings were joined to one another. So that's pretty amazing. The wings were joined to one another. Their faces did not turn when they went. Each went straight forward. So it's going to make sense to you, because if there are 4 faces, there's no turning of the head on the neck. It would just be straight forward. They're just moving forward. And as for the likeness of their faces, each had the face of a man, and all 4 had the face of a lion on the right side. So yeah, I'm not going to ask you to draw it. Just picture it. The face of an ox on the left side, and the face of an eagle. That's for the faces. Lion, an ox, face of a man, face of an eagle. All right, lion, ox, eagle, and then the man. Those were their 4 faces. Thus were their faces, and their wings were stretched upward. 2 wings of every one were joined to one another. So 2 wings were joined to one another, and 2 cover their bodies. So that's interesting, because their wings were stretched upward. 2 wings were joined to one another, and then 2 wings cover their bodies. So if you imagine not a bird in flight, but a bird who is asleep, maybe at the same time. So 2 wings are in the front of them, they're faced upward. The 2 wings are joined to one another, but they're facing upward. One's covering the body, and one is 2 are joined together and facing upward. All right. It's difficult, to imagine a creature that you've never seen before, but this is a vision, symbolizing some things about God's glory, less about this wild creature that God just decides to create. It's a symbol. Okay. Each went straight forward when the Spirit was to go. Okay. And it's for me, it's I immediately go to fearless strength, and I go freedom, and I go truth, God's people. When I think of okay, the 4 faces going forward, it's I just think of the Spirit of God and the attributes that I would connect to. The animals, that's me. Just went straight forward. Wherever the Spirit was to go, they would go and not turn as they went. Does that make sense? Wherever the Spirit went, they went forward. I'm not going to stop. As for the likeness of the living creatures. Their appearance was like burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. Do you get that? Okay? The bright light that you can't really look at, the burning coal of fire, it's just too much, you know? Can't leave your eyes on it. Can't leave your eyes on these folks because they're just too bright, right? As for the likeness of the creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire and the appearance of lamps. It went up and down among the living creatures. The fire was bright, and out of the fire went lightning. The living creatures ran to and fro as the appearance of the flash of lightning. Sorry, my hair got huge all of a sudden. Now, as I looked at the living creatures, one wheel was on the ground by the living creatures for each of the four faces. So now as I looked at the living creatures, one wheel was on the ground by the living creatures for each of the four faces. So to me that sounds like one wheel for each of the four faces, and then I see four wheels. Let's keep reading. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like the color of a sparkling beryl, and all of them had one likeness. So all of the wheels looked alike. The sparkling beryl, I think when I looked it up, it spit like an emerald, but you know, you can go ahead and look it up. That's BERYL, and all four of them had one likeness. So all these wheels were alike. They're on the ground by the living creatures for each one of the four faces. So, and their appearance and their work was, as it were, a wheel in the middle of a wheel. And this might be tough for some folks, but for you who've you had like spinning bike spokes, that was, you know, you just like, you can imagine, or you can imagine on certain, like, have you seen the hubcaps that spin? So it's a wheel within a wheel. It should be simple enough for you because one wheel is in another wheel. It's just like if you have to change your tire on a bike and then you have the frame, like it's okay, because you can imagine that, as it were, a wheel in the middle of a wheel. Wherever they went in any of the four sides and did not turn as they went. As for their rims, they were so high that they were dreadful, and the rims of all four of them were full of eyes all around. Okay. So it does seem like that there's a rim and then a wheel and then a wheel within a wheel. So my visual on that is sort of kaput. I'm not sure how to interpret. But okay. Whenever they went in any of the four sides, and they did not turn as they went. So the wheels were not turning around, but they went forward. You know what I mean? The rims were so, and the rims were so high that they were dreadful, and the rims of all four of them were full of eyes all around. For me, it's difficult, you know, to put God into human terms. But when I was growing up, there were bikes, and then, you know, these like spokes, and there were kind of the ones that could slide up and down in the rim. These, like, you know, these plastic pieces, and then they would make this fun noise. And we put them on our bike tires, and it was awesome. And in various colors, and it was just kind of an entertaining thing to put on your bike. So when I think about that, I think of like the eyes as, like, you know, within, you know, the little girl inside of me thinks about what I've seen before. So I just, like, then I don't make the eyes all weird, I just make it like full of eyes. I just think of like those little pieces that are inside the wheel, and they're just going as the bike is turning its wheels. All right, full of eyes all around. But really, imagine you know, if it was like, you know, those were actual eyes. I don't want to freak you out. It's just, it's a vision, you know. Omnipresence, right? When the living creatures went, their wheels went with them, and whenever the living creatures were lifted up from the ground, their wheels were also lifted up. Wherever the spirit was about to go, they would go in that direction, and the wheels rose close beside them, and the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. And it's like you see, like, you know, the bird wings turned upward, the wings on the front of these guys, in front of them, covering their bodies. You see the feet that are the straight legs, and you see these hoofs at the bottom of the legs. In front of them you see the 4 wheels, you know, one for each face. And then it's like wherever the spirit's going, that's where the movement is going, right? The likeness of the expanse over the heads of the living creatures was as the gleam of crystal. The likeness of the expanse over the heads of the living creatures was as the awesome, excuse me please, I left a word out, awesome gleam of crystal stretched out over their heads above. Over their heads above. It's like the gleam of crystal. And you've seen it. You've seen like prisms, and you've seen, you know, crystals like chandeliers, and something beautiful. And it was just like the gleam would be just the essence of what the light was that was shining off of them. It was gorgeous, right? He's just describing it like, look what I saw. Look at what's moving. Look at the way the spirit is leading. I'll just interject. Like for me, it's like, look at where the spirit's leading. Always forward. Look at where the spirit's leading. He's on the move, and wherever he moves, there's the lion, there's the eagle, and there's the ox, and there's the man. There's the people of God who are following the spirit. There's the strength. The Son of God, you know. It's interesting because, like, trying to capture it into words what I feel like it is, you know, I think it would make complete sense to Ezekiel, but for me it's just like putting into human terms someone else's vision is, it's just, I can only hope to at least connect a little bit with why God would put that in the scriptures. Whenever those went, these went. Whenever those stood still, these stood still. And where the Spirit of God led, there went that boldness, there went that strength, there went his people, there went his Son. They followed the move of the Spirit, and then the wheels, and then the vision, you know, on the wheels, within the wheels, movement within movement. God seeing everything, it's just there. So when those stood still, these stood still. Whenever those rose from the ground, the wheels rose behind them. The spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. The likeness of the expanse over the heads of the creatures was the awesome gleam of crystal stretched out over their heads above. Under the expanse of their wings were stretched out straight, the one toward the other. Each also had 2 wings which covered its body. We talked about that on the one side and on the other. When they went, I heard. So it's the first time, you know, for you auditory people, like we've been using our visualization, but we're going to talk about what he heard. When they went, I heard the noise of their wings, like the noise of abundant waters, as the voice of the Almighty, the noise of tumult as the noise of an army camp, whenever they stood still, they let down their wings. So this presence, this movement, this strength, this force that was going. It wasn't just something you could see that was, you know, the crystal above and then the fire inside and the gleaming and then these guys with 4 faces and the wheels. It wasn't just that, it was like the sound. The sound, is that not the most impactful thing that you've heard today? When they went, I heard this noise of their wings and the noise of abundant waters. Imagine yourself on the ocean shore, the noise of the tumult of the noise of an army camp. Imagine walking into an army camp and voices everywhere, preparations. The voice of the Almighty, the voice of God Himself. And whenever they stood still, they let down their wings. Their wings down. And what were the wings kind of covering? They were covering, you know, the body on both sides. And they were up behind them, pointed upward. There was a voice from the expanse that was over their heads whenever they stood still and let down their wings. Above the expanse that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone, and that's blue. It's a deep blue. Let's see, I've got a blue, like sapphire. The appearance of a sapphire stone, and on the likeness of the throne was the likeness as the appearance of a man on it, high up. Then I saw as glowing metal, as the appearance of fire all around within it, from the appearance of his loins and upward, and from the appearance of his loins and downward. I saw that there were the appearance of fire, and there was a brightness around him as the appearance of the rainbow that is the cloud on a day of rain. So it was. So was the appearance of the brightness all around. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. And when I saw it, I fell on my face and heard a voice of one speaking. And right there. So when he saw this, he fell on his face down by that water of Kabar. And what happened? I fell on my face and I heard a voice of one speaking. Okay, what's the Lord going to say to Ezekiel? We'll find out.